Well, hello there. So I'm going to be doing a smaller purse, not real small, but it's going to be the size that would do something like hold my cell phone, a wallet, a few little things like that. Be much smaller than, something that you're going to put a bunch of things in, but big enough for me to just take. And I'm going to do it in a rocker style. So this is the yarn I'm using. This yarn is a Noro yarn, and it's Noro Tsuido, Tsuido, and it's a bulky number 5. It's not a real thick bulky. It's a thinner bulky, but it's a bulky. Okay. So that's the yarn I'm using. It's 100% wool. It's pretty. It's purple with a bunch of flecks of color in it, and the yarn goes thicker and thinner. It's a roving style. Okay, well, I just lost my loom hook. No, here it is. The loom hook I'm using is a loom hook from We Have a Handle on This, and they're not making them right now, but they have similar ones on Etsy. Okay, and the loom I'm going to be using here is a 36 peg 5/8 inch gauge loom. You can get the same loom I have, or you can use the 36 peg one out of the any of the circle loom sets, or you can actually use a bigger or smaller loom. The important thing though is for this style is that you're going to mark some pegs, and they're going to be opposite each other. And then you want the pegs that aren't marked to be approximately half the number of pegs that are in the ones that are marked. So for example, right here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 marked pegs here, 12 marked pegs here, and then the pegs that aren't marked are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are half the amount of the marked pegs. So you want to work it out so it's approximately like that, and you want your marked pegs to be an even number. Okay, so that's how you mark your pegs, and then we can just get started. I don't think there's anything else I need to tell you. I just got to find where the end of the yarn is now. Here it is, all in a ball. Okay, I'll just put you on pause while I unwind this, because it's going to take some time. Okay, so here's my yarn. So to get started, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to do a slip knot and slip it on the first peg, or on any kind of a thing you have here, or in my case, because this is a lot tighter, I can just kind of put it on here and it's going to hold it, and I can get started. But you just want it to hold it, because what we're going to do is a drawstring cast on. Okay, so how we're going to do that is we're going to go behind the first peg, in front of the second peg, behind, in front, behind, in front. We're just going to weave it in, and this will enable us to drawstring it after. If you've ever done machine knitting, you'll have done a lot of these drawstring cast-ons. But you just weave it in, and then when you get right back to here, I'm going to let this go and just hold it for a minute, and I'm going to go over this empty peg, because the yarn's going behind and in front of the peg that has the yarn, and I'm just going to knit that over, and then I'm going to go in front of the peg with no yarn, in front of the peg that has yarn, and knit it off. So we're always going in front of all the pegs. Now I can let that one go. You can even hold it up for a ways if you want, and you just knit over the ones that have the yarn on them. So what we're doing is we're putting a loop on each peg by doing this. Okay, and the cast on will be complete when we get to the end. We just keep knitting it over. I'm going to get that to be a little bit more in the center here. Whoop, wrong way. There we go. Okay, and we just keep doing that. If you have done a drawstring cast on before, then you know exactly how this is going to work. If you haven't, well, then you're going to learn what you can do if you know how to do this. Okay, now as we come back, I'm going to knit this one off, and then I'm going to take the working yarn and kind of make it go, drop it down to the back, because we're ready to, but I'm going to hold on to it. I want to keep this fairly tight, and we're going to do the first stitch in the pattern, which is owl eye. So we're going to knit it over, and it's kind of loose. Okay, and then we're going to come back and knit over it again, and knit over the next one like that. If you haven't done owl eye before, whatever peg you're on is peg 1, and you go over 1 and 2 and knit them off and keep it loose. On peg 1, go over 1 and 2, knit it off. On there, over 1 and 2 and knit it off. Whoa, that's a big thick piece. On peg 1, over 1 and 2. On 1 and 2. I did a very similar bag to this, but a bigger bag. So that's a hobo bag because it holds a lot more, but a little rocker purse. It's a similar style, but it holds a lot less. Has a slightly different look. We're not going to go up as high. I don't know if my hobo bag is live yet, but I will have a rocker purse and a hobo purse or bag that will be coming out fairly close together for the summer. Because I need bags. I want to take walks. I want to have bags to carry what I take with me. Now, I'm not lining these bags that I'm making. I don't usually line my bags. I can. If you want to line it, you just cut out a piece that's about the same as the bag you're putting in, and you can sew it in. But what I usually do is I put a bag or a piece of cloth in if I want it to be sort of lined. I just stick it in and put my things inside that and put it in the bag. Put it in the purse. I don't bother lining these. I do them nice and tight and don't worry about that kind of thing. Works fine for me that way. But you can do whatever you like. Be your purse, your bag you're making. Now, I have a video on my channel of the owl eye if you need that, and I actually have a video of the stitch we're using in this, Cobblestone Stitch. So if that helps you to familiarize yourself with the stitch, but I will show you how to do the second stitch in the pattern and how to switch from one stitch to the other. Okay, so now we're coming to the end, and we're just going to finish off the owl eye here. I come over. Okay, and now I'm going to, because I'm ending here, I'm going to come over it once more so that there are 2 stitches on this last peg. And now I'm going to do the stitch that I do here, and it's just the purl over stitch. So to do the purl over, do not do it like a purl. Do not put your yarn down there. Your yarn goes up here like a knit. You go under the stitch here. You come up and you scoop up that loop on top, and then you just flip it over, okay, and tighten it slightly. So you go over in a U-wrap, you come under, you scoop up the yarn, and you flip it over, okay? So think of it like this: knit, scoop, oop, I can't get it in there, and flip, okay? Knit, over, scoop, and flip. Knit, scoop, pick it up, and flip it over. Okay? And you want to keep this nice and loose because this stitch will tighten up. And you can put it over with your fingers too. And this is what it'll look like. You'll have these two little bars right here. You'll be able to tell what stitch you're on, because when you come around and you see this, you'll know you finished with the purl over. Now I have a cobblestone purse on my channel, and it's done flat as a flat panel and attached. This one's done in the round, so the stitch will look a little bit different. Okay, so I think you know how to do this stitch now. You just come under, scoop it up, and when you've got yarn like this, and this is so thick, I'm going to pull it and flip it over. Certainly going to have lots of character using this yarn. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going, and I will meet up with you when we get close to the beginning of the next row. So see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm on the last purl over. So go over like a knit, scoop up under, scoop it up, and just flip it over. There we go. Now the next stitch is owl eye. This is dark yarn, the dark, so I'm going to go up close. So you're going to put the working yarn over in a U-wrap, knit this off, and if it's not too tight, it'll go over easy. And if it's tight, then you'll learn that next time you come around, do that purl over nice and loose. But we go over and we go over again, and then over 1 and 2. So that's how you start this. And you go over 1 and 2. Mine's a little hard to put over, but only in the places where the yarn was so thick. But I love the look of this thick and thin yarn, especially on this kind of a bag. That gives it that old-fashioned organic look. And so we just do the owl eye. So you're just going to be doing, it's 2 rows. You're going to be doing the owl eye and then the purl over. And I've showed you how to start each row. And there's not enough to really see this. But if you can see it at all, it's looking kind of pretty. So I'm going to have to work along for a bit, and then we can take a look at it. So just keep going for a while, and we will catch up, and we'll take a look and see how we're looking. Okay, have fun. Okay, so here I am, and I have done a lot more on here, and I'm actually as long as I want to be. I've gone for, oh, I don't know, it's around 5.5 to 6. I measured by using what I was going to put in here for how long I wanted to be. So my phone will be in here, and it fits fine. And I will have enough room to put a little change purse with money in it and my keys, and that's all I wanted to have this for, to bring a few extra things like that when I need to. Okay, so Next step. What we're going to do now is make sure that you've ended on your purl over row so that this last stitch is a purl over and it's all purl overs on the loom. So if you didn't end that way, make sure you do your purl over row. Then we're going to come in and we're going to do owl eye on all of the blue pegs. And of course it's marker peg that's black. So I'm just going to do the owl eye. And I'm going to go right to the end of the blue marked pegs that I have. Now it's important that you ended on a purl over row for the type of bind off I'm going to do, because we need it to be nice and tight right before the bind off. Okay, just a couple more of these marked pegs. Okay, now what we're going to do is owl eye over this peg and the first unmarked peg. We're going to be binding these off, so if you don't want to do my owl eye bind off, which is what I'm going to use for this, then you can use another bind off, and so then you would just only knit this peg and then do your bind off. But what I'm going to do is come in and do the 1 stitch over, okay, and then a 2 stitches over on this one, and I'm going to take the peg and move it to the next loop, and then I'm going to knit it over, come around, do a U-wrap, do another U-wrap, bring it over to the next loop, knit it off, come around, and do the owl eye on one peg. Okay, lift it up, move it around. Always tighten it a little bit too when you move it. And I'm going to knit it off, come around, do the owl eye on one peg, take the loop, put it over, tighten, knit it off, come around, and you do a U-wrap, do another U-wrap here, take it and put it here, tighten, okay, knit it off, come around and do a U-wrap, and come around and do the last U-wrap, pick it up, move it over here, tighten it up, okay, knit, and what we're going to do now is just knit it like a U-wrap, taking both loops over, and then do the owl eye again on all the blue pegs, or the marked pegs, whatever color you use to mark them. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it here, and you can see that this is bound off, and the reason I used the bind off that I did is it's a nice tight bind off, which is what I wanted to have at the top of this particular bag. Oh, that's it here, all bound off, and it has not that much stretch, which I did not want to have in the purse. I didn't want it to be stretching all over the place. Okay, wanted it to be stretchy here, but not up here. Okay, but it does have stretch, and it's not too tight. Okay, all right, so we're going to keep doing the owl eye as we go around. Now you can do any kind of a bind off like I said, but if you do one where you have to cut the yarn, then you're going to have lots of pieces of yarn all around it. So you might want to do a loose basic bind off if you don't want to do the owl eye bind off. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing the owl eye on these pegs. Whoop. I don't have a separate video for my owl eye bind off yet. I will be making one. For all I know, by the time this video comes out, I will have one, but I don't think so. Anyway, I'm going to do that. It works for people who want to have that kind of a bind off and who have trouble sometimes doing the basic bind off too, because it regulates the length of the stitches and the tightness of the stitches. Okay, so now I'm doing the last two here. So I'm going to go over this and over the unmarked peg in its first stitch. And then I'm going to come over in the U-wrap, come over in another U-wrap, move it over to the next peg, tighten it, knit it off, come around and do the U-wrap, do another U-wrap, put it on the next peg, tighten it, knit it off, come around, knit it, come around and knit it again, take it and move it to the next peg, over, you do the U-wrap, another U-wrap, take it over to the next one, tighten, knit it off, come around and do the U-wrap, do another U-wrap, take it, move it over, whoop, take it, move it over. I lost it. Okay, take it. Oh, I lost a stitch off it, so I'll do another stitch here, and then I'll move it over. It fell off on me. Anyway, knit it over, and knit it over, and then move it over to this peg, and you're all bound off. And I'm just going to check it and make sure that that one looks okay. Yep, I fixed it, so that's good. We're good. And these are bound off on both sides. Now what you're going to do is the next stitch that we were doing on this, and we were doing owl eye, so we're going to do a purl over. So what you're going to do is go over in the purl over, come under with both loops, pick it up and flip it over. Okay, and we're going to be doing the purl over on these pegs. Now what we're going to be doing is going back and forth on these pegs to make the strap, but we will be reducing. Okay, so let's just do the purl over to the end. Okay, now on this we're going to be doing a bit of a different stitch as we do this. Okay, we're going to be doing 2 owl eye rows to every purl row, because this is going in a flat panel and this was going in the round, and the stitch looks slightly different in a flat panel and in the round. If we do this, it will blend in a little bit better, and it'll keep it going straight. So I call this stitch variation ingot stitch, and it's 2 owl eyes to 1 purl over. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go back in owl eye. So we go over like this, And we're going to do these end pegs after this one in owl eye always, just the end pegs. This one's really tight, so we're going to take my time working it. There we go. Okay. And I'm only going to go over it once because it's now an end peg. And I'm going to do owl eye back. So what's going to happen is the purl over will now be alternating the rows it's on, and that's what's going to keep this going nice and straight. Okay, and well, I'm not going to tell you too much till we get going a little bit further. Yeah, this one's going to be a little tight because it had the 2 stitches on it. Okay, and we're going to come back. Oop. Nice and loose. Not quite that loose, but nice and loose. And another row of owl eye. Okay, now just before I get to the end, I am going to do a decrease. So what I'm going to do, because this is the second owl eye row, is I'm going to take this piece of loop, put it on this peg, and then move the one on the black peg over to, whoop, did I get it on there? Yeah. Okay, so now I've got the 2 loops here, or 1 loop here. And just before I do this one, I'm going to take this one and move it over here, and take this one and move it over here. And now I've decreased 1. So we're always going to decrease on the second owl eye row. Okay, so now I'm going to knit this over, and then this peg is always going to be like this, and then we're going to come back in the purl over, Now alternately, if you found it easier, you could do this handle all in owl eye instead of an ingot stitch. That looks nice too. And now this is the last peg. So we come back around and do the first row of owl eye. The reason you always want to do the decrease on the owl eye row is because it's looser. The purl over row would be way too tight to do a decrease on. Whoop. Oh, this is the first row. I forgot they alternate. And then we come back, and this is the second row. So now anywhere while we're doing the second row, we can just stop and do our decreases. Okay, so we go into the second one here, move it over, and we go to this one, move it over, and we come here, and this is now our last peg. We take this one and move it over, and then we move this one over. There, got it. And then we just keep on doing the owl eye stitch to the end of the row. And we've done another decrease. And we'll just always do the decrease on the second owl eye row while we're in the middle of doing it and we're far enough away from where we're doing the decrease. Okay, so I've decreased down to 6 pegs. And you can decrease more or less depending how thick you want this part, but 6 is a nice, it is a nice thick strap. Okay, so you can see how this tapers down into the strap, and this is what the ingot stitch looks like. So it looks like the cobblestone, it blends in, but it has this kind of design to it. That's going to look really nice with it. And the reason I rather use it than owl eye or continue to use cobblestone is if I use cobblestone straight, it does tend to slant a little bit. And with a long strap like I was going to do, it would be too slanted. And I wanted to have the purl over in with the owl eye so it wouldn't stretch as much on the strap. It makes a tighter strap. And I also thought it would look really nice with this, and I am liking the way that it's looking. Okay, so that's what this is doing, is bringing us up to this nice tapered edge. And so you're going to keep going till you get the length that you want. And then what you're going to do is come over on the other side here and do exactly the same thing. Just put a slip knot or a piece of yarn and start again after you've bound off. So you'll get as long as you want. Bind off this one at the end, any bind off you want. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on here with the decreases, so you can watch that part of the video again and then do this one just as long, and then we'll meet up when we have the 2 straps just as long, and we're going to attach them at the top. Okay, and then after that we'll work on how we're going to do this bottom to get a softer, slightly rounded rocker edge on the bottom. Okay, so I will see you in a bit. Have fun, and we'll meet up when our strap is as long as we want. I want mine long enough to actually go over my head, so it's like a crossbody bag. Okay, so we will see you then. Okay, so here I am now, and I've done both handles the length that I want them to be, and they're on the loom, and this one here is I just left it here, not bound off or anything, and neither is this one, but this one's still attached to the long yarn. Now you can bind them off and just sew them together, but what I'm going to do is attach them on the loom. And the reason I want to do that is it just makes it look nice on the good side, and it keeps it stretched really nice, so it's nice and straight too. So I'm going to show you how I would do that when it's on the reverse way than we need it to attach it. So I'll just get my loom hook or my little pins here. Now you can put a piece of yarn under to take them off, or you can use safety pins even, but I've got these little pins like this. So what you're going to do if you have these is you just put them through and clip them onto the yarn, and it will hold the loop. I prefer to use these. It makes it a lot easier to put them back on the loom. And I always have a lot of them because I use them a lot in my 10 stitch blankets. This one does not want to close. There we go. So I'm just going to put these on, and then I'm going to go to the other side and put some more on, and then we'll meet back up when we've got something under here to hold the loops. Okay? Okay, and then you can just pop them off. I've already popped off the one, just being careful to leave your pins on. And this one I'm going to be careful of because I didn't leave. This one is the one that is the one that I'm going to be using. So what I'm going to do, I just bring this whole bag through and then just turn it inside out. Just because that's easier to not mix up what you're doing. And then I can just take them and put them back on the loom. So what I'm going to do is just pick a place, could be anywhere, and put my stitches back on. But what I'm doing now is the yarn that's going to be facing me when I'm knitting will be the wrong side. So we're just going to put them on. Just slip them over, trying not to stretch them too much. But they might have closed up a bit, so you might have to stretch a bit and pull a little bit. And just pop them all back on. And then there you are, back on the loom. And once these ones are on the loom, you can just take out your stitch markers. And you kind of want to take off your stitch markers right now because you don't want to have double stitch markers on here. It makes it too hard to take them off. There, now that's on the loom. And then making sure nothing's twisted, right? Because we're inside out. Making sure it's coming down straight. We're going to take the other one and bring it up, and we're going to have the right sides facing each other and the wrong side away from us this way and the wrong side away from us this way. So now we put this one on top and this one on top here. You'll be doing it at an angle that's comfortable for you, and you'll be able to get on probably faster than me because I am trying really hard to keep this in the camera and not have my hands in the road of you seeing. And then the last one here. There. Whoop. Sure I got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, one here. Okay. I missed one. Should have 6 on here. Not 5, but 6. And there we go. Okay. Now you're going to look for your yarn, the long yarn, to see where it is. And here it is. And somehow I have it going through the bag, so I have to take my yarn and put it through the bag and get everything in the right place to be able to knit this. And now it has to go through here. So when you do it, make sure that you notice where your yarn is, okay? And now that you have your yarn where it's supposed to be, take out your pins. Okay. And make sure you are on an owl eye row, because it'll be a lot harder on a purl over row to bring over the stitches. It can be done, but it's a lot easier on an owl eye row. Now all you have to do is take the bottom loop and knit it over the top, and that will secure them together. There we go. And now we're just going to bind them off on the wrong side. And all I'm going to do is that owl eye bind off I showed you earlier. So I'm just going to take my working yarn and go over and knit it again. And then I'm going to take it over here and snug it up a little bit, knit it off, go in front of it in a U-wrap from behind, come back around in front again, knit it off, and take it over to the next one. Just snug it up a little bit, knit it off, come over it, knit it, come over it again, knit it, take it, move it over, snug it up a little bit, knit it, go and round in the U-wrap, come from the back, go in front again, knit it off, take it over here, snugging it up a little bit, and you knit that off, and again in the U-wrap, and then you just bring it over to the last one, knit it. Now this one has the looser yarn here, so be careful that you don't take that yarn out, and knit it again. And then you're just going to take it off the loom, holding on to the loop, because you can now take your working yarn and put it through to make a knot. So I'm just going to get my scissors here and leave it long enough to weave it in after. And I'm just going to make a knot to secure this by putting it through here. Here we go. Okay. And now we're joined up, and we're going to sew in the working yarn, but that just joins it up. So it's all joined up here. Just looks like part of the stitch. You wouldn't know there was a join there. And once I weave in all the ends, it will look better. So I'm just going to weave in my ends, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Okay, I've done it, so I'm going to turn my purse back the right way, and now I have a handle that's attached, and there we go, nice long handle. And what we're going to do here is I put a button on, but you can do any kind of closure that you want for this. Okay, any kind of closure. I like this button. I like the way it sort of had the contrast with it, so I put it here. Now for this part, and I already started doing this, I want to have a nice soft kind of rocker bottom, and I don't want that, you know, squished in gathered look as much. I want it to be more rounded. So what I've done is I just pulled it in to make it smaller, and whenever I did, I worked the yarn all evenly around, and I pulled it in until I got the kind of curve that I want at the bottom. So you just keep doing that to get it all around. Once you have it even, what you want to do is move all these stitches here to the ends, to the sides, so that all the gathered stuff is at the sides. And I'll show you why, because once you do that, this gets flat instead of being all buckly. And you want it to get as flat as you can. Okay, on both sides. So you just keep moving them over all the way it's puckered until you get all the puckering right at the sides. And what that does is it's starting to curve it in already on the sides. Okay, so once you get that all done, and your bag is looking just the kind of the way you want it at the bottom, it's coming in a more softer, rounded way, then you can just turn it inside out again, and then you're just going to seam up this inside where it's open. Okay, so I'll put you on pause and I'll get my needle. Okay, now how you're going to want to seam it up is you're going to want to seam it up so it's exactly, these are exactly matched up, your two sides here like this, and hold it like that. You can put pins in it if you want. I'm just going to hold it, and then you know it's going to be like this to flatten it out and have it the way you want it. And then I'm going to just put the yarn through and pick up a stitch here to hold it, and put the yarn through. Use kind of a long piece of yarn here. There we go. And I'm just going to leave that there to secure later. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the holes. You're going to see the stitching here above it. Usually there's about 2 strands, and I'm going to look for the next hole, and I'm going to go through the holes. So I'm going to go through the hole here, and then I'm going to look for the hole over here, and I'm going to go through the hole there. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring the yarn through. Okay, and then I'm going to look for the next hole, which is right here. And I'm going to come through that. Whoop, I dropped it. I'm going to look for the next hole here. Turn it to face me. There it is. And I'm going to go back to where this one was coming out of. And I'm going to go back in through there. Okay, and I'm going to keep doing that all the way. And I'm actually going to cut this a little bit shorter because I cut it too long. It's driving me crazy, but I'm always worried they're going to be too short. There, a little bit shorter. Okay. So here we are. Now I'm going to take this yarn and go into the next hole on the same side where I just came through. So here's the next hole, and put it through. And then I'm going to look for where I came out of on the other side, and I can see it's right there. So I'm going to go back into that hole where I came out of, and I want to make sure I find it. Exactly where I came out of. There it is. And I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Okay, I'm going to, now that I found that hole and I've come out of it on the other side, I'm going to go into the next stitch, go back in the last hole, and I'm just going to work my way around till I get here. So I'm meet you up right there. Okay, now I've gotten all the way across and I haven't tied any knots, so that means I can just slightly tighten this and look at it and tighten it a little bit more until I get the exact look that I'm wanting. And if I find it's too tight anywhere that I pulled it, I can just go and loosen that up on the inside. And look at it again, and you just keep doing that until you get the exact kind of look that you want at the bottom. Let's see if I can get this in the camera. You get that slightly softened look here at the bottom. So just keep doing that until you get the look that you want at the bottom. And then you tie, you can knot those with your needle, or just weave them in. I'm going to knot them and weave them in as soon as I get it where I want. Okay, so now I've got it just the way I want it at the bottom, and it's secured. And I still have to weave in my ends, which I'll do later. But here's the little bag, and now we need a closure on here. So to do the closure on here, we're just going to get the yarn, And so I got to go get some yarn because my yarn fell on the floor, but I'll be right back. Okay, so all I have to do now, and because this is so dark, I'm just going to use a white peg because it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to put a slip knot in here and put this on. And then easy, all we have to do is do a U-wrap. Whoop, got to hold that to secure it. I'm going to do my first U-wrap there, and then I can secure it better there. And then you're just going to keep doing a U-wrap. U-wrap, come back, do a U-wrap, come back, do a U-wrap. That was a thick one, hey? Come back, do a U-wrap, come back. I got some thick yarn in here. Do a U-wrap, come back, do a U-wrap, come back. And you're just going to keep doing a U-wrap until you get a little bit longer. And I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is start again and cut out this big one, because for my hook, I don't think I want this big fluffy thing in here. So I'm just going to cut it off, start over, and start doing it again. And so we'll catch up when we've got a length we need. And what you want is, we're going to attach it here. You just want your loop to be big enough to go over your button or whatever closure you have there. Okay, now as soon as you get the length that you think it is what you need, you can loosen it up, loosen up the stitch a little bit, and take it off the loom, because now you need to cut the yarn about the length of this yarn. So we're just going to cut it, and then we're going to put it through the loop to secure it. And now we have this little cord that can go around the button. And then you're just going to take these ends and you're going to put them in the bag on both ends around the button, so that you've got the cord coming out right where you need it to secure it. Looser if you want the bag to be more open and hold more, tighter if you want the bag to be really, really tight. So you decide, and you just put them through, knot them and weave them in, and we'll catch up when you're done. Okay, and I still have to weave in the ends, but I've got this in here, and I've got my cell phone in here. So my cell phone fits perfectly. I can put a wallet in there. I can put keys in here and whatever, and do it up. And there we go. We have a done up purse with a cell phone in it for now. And that's all there is to it. And it has a soft bottom. Doesn't come down into a big square, and I'm quite happy with it. And there you go. That's all there is to it. And the sides are like this, so you want that soft curve there to match the curve at the bottom of this purse. You have where you attached it is showing a little bit on the inside, but it doesn't show on the outside. So there you go. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye.